Arc Raiders has found themselves in the crosshairs of a AI controversy. Okay, this is crazy. They are using AI voices inside their game, and a lot of people have been questioning this. Before we jump into it, though, I think it's important to understand the full context. Like, in what sense are they using AI voices in Arc Raiders? We have right here Arc Raiders call out voices are the same technology as live stream text to speech. The argument against Arc Raiders' use of AI voices has reached an absurd fever pitch that doesn't make any sense to me. Lots of grandstanding and moral high grounding for what amounts to nothing at all. The voice actors involved were paid for their work and agreed to have their voices used in this text to speech system. A very large majority of streamers use the same technology every day. Despite this, nobody cares until it's used in a video game. There was even a long standing meta across all socials to have Dagoth voice text to speech lines both live and on static videos. There was no outrage here, and the original voice actor definitely wasn't paid. All of this just looks like being mad for internet points more than trying to fix an actual problem. It's fine to be mad, I guess, but at least be consistent if you truly want text to speech systems used. So that's really interesting that the actors were paid and they're still using their voices with like these inside like AI generating their voices, right? So basically they're using their voices as like the structuring for the AI. So it's not like they're just outright stealing someone's voice or work and not paying them. Now, it should be said that it's probably really expensive to have voice actors come into the studio, record all their lines, right? We've seen this with Destiny. You had, Peter Dinklage was involved with that. It was obviously very expensive, so they couldn't continue to work with him, so they had to do work with, Nolan North, things like that. You have to pay these types of things really make the game significantly more expensive in general. If every time you need a line used, you have to fly the guy out, record it, or even maybe they can send it in, I suppose. So I guess maybe using this AI technology can enhance this is the argument. Right here it says Epic Games boss Tim Sweeney wades into the Arc Raiders AI voice debate with an imaginary scenario predicting infinite, context sensitive, personality reflecting dialogue based on and tuned by human voice actors. Sweeney says productivity increases driven by technology will lead to better games, not reduced employment. Interesting. So basically, Tim Sweeney's arguing that this can enhance games, make them better, not necessarily reduce employment, which is kind of an interesting battle there happening, I suppose. This person says Embark Studios is using AI so they can pay their voice talent less, period. Which is an interesting point, right? Are the voice actors getting paid as much as if they did the normal voice acting work, or are they getting paid less because now they're kind of AI generating these lines? Maybe there's like a way of like cutting costs with this. I guess we'd have to actually look at the exact amount of they were paid and for how much work and compare that to other studios, but it feels like we're getting into the weeds here, right? We're getting into such fine detail. Whatever the contract is worth, it's less than what they would have to pay if they weren't using AI. A dev studio undercutting their talent for a game that's selling millions of copies is nothing like I'm Dante not paying someone to sit next to him all day to voice his chat, or Stevie Wonder using text to speech for accessibility, or whatever other analogy you all want to throw at the wall to see if it sticks. This post is divorced from reality. People are losing their jobs across the country because companies like Embark Studios are either flat out replacing them or they are paying them significantly less due to AI. Now, we'd have to have the actual voice actors speak to this. In IT, I've literally watched hundreds of my peers lose their roles over the past 2 years. The vast majority of them have struggled to find work, and many have accepted roles that clearly underpaid them because there was no other option. Those people who haven't already lost their jobs are terrified that the axe is soon to fall as companies continue to invent strategies to undercut the value of talent. These are the exact circumstances Embark Studios is taking advantage of, and you are trying to advocate that it should be okay. There's definitely a fever pitch about the bullshit, but it's not absurd. Really interesting stuff. It should be said that with capitalism, I feel like this is the ugly side of it, where as new technology is invented, it kind of replaces older jobs. We were recently watching a documentary that made me laugh where this is kind of relevant, kind of not, but the laundry used to take on average 4 hours to do, right? Like it used to take 4 hours to do laundry, and now we have like literal, dryers and washing machines. And so you just throw it in the washing machine, click a button, an hour later it's washed, throw it in the dryer, click a button, an hour later it's dried. Bada bing, bada boom. It takes you like 5 minutes of time, but the machines themselves do all the work, right? Now, that obviously replaces that human element. Now you don't have to manually spend 4 hours washing clothes, right? And while it's not the perfect analogy for this, it should be said that technology is always advancing faster and coming for your job. Whatever your job is, technology is coming after your job because there's people up here with billions of dollars and soon trillions of dollars, like Elon Musk is about to be a trillionaire, and they want to optimize their companies and their efficiency more and more and more. And so you've got AI, you've got robotics, you've got just everything in technology in general, just advancing so fast. And it's going to eventually replace jobs that we would ordinarily not think as replaceable. Like I never would have thought that like artists would get replaced by just some crazy website that has an algorithm. Like I can just type in the website, make me an image of, something crazy, right? That heavily depends on what your job is. To some degree, yeah, to some degree. I mean, the AI is coming after particular jobs that are, some jobs are more prone to it than others, but it's also hard to predict what jobs. Like, I'll give you a good example. When I envisioned the AI revolution, right? When I thought, oh, yeah, technology is going to advance so much more, I didn't think that artists were going to be the first ones getting screwed over. Like, what? Artists are creative. Artists are, talented. Why did we create AI to take over art? It just so happened that that was like the low-hanging fruit, right? That we could take all of their images and we could turn it into this algorithm and this amalgamation. We could spit out art instantaneously and basically replace artists. And we haven't replaced all of them by any means, of course, but largely a lot of them and a lot of artwork has been, replaced. Like, or at least a good amount has been, it's starting to be replaced, at least I should say. It's not replaced properly, but yeah. There's obviously a lot of pushback and people definitely don't appreciate their work getting stolen, which is why there will be more legislation put in place. And there's going to be a lot of legal work for AI to not steal people's work, right? And that's going to be important. We're going to have to push through that era and see what the resolve of that is. And then you alternatively have like artists is a big one. And now you have trucks are driving themselves. I don't know if you've seen this, but they actually have like semi trucks in Texas right now that are like hauling goods autonomously because like your car can drive itself if you have like the right features on it, right? Tesla cars and Waymos and stuff like that. So they have trucks that are just driving stuff up and down the freeways completely unmanned. And so truck drivers are kind of getting replaced, or at least they're starting to get replaced, right? And then they have robots in some Amazon warehouses now, I believe, that are like, they're replacing the Amazon workers. And so it's just technology is going to arrive and take people's jobs, and it is a part of capitalism, and it sucks. And no one wants, everyone wants to be able to work the job that they're passionate about, do the thing that they like, but technology is coming for that. And it seems like these gaming companies, right? They've become very bloated in how much cost they have. So they're looking for any way in which they can cut costs. And I don't think it's fair to replace real voice actors with AI by any means, of course. I think that's very peculiar practice. But if it cuts a bunch of costs for them, as a corporate, as a greedy corporation, they're probably going to do that, they're probably going to do that, right? And the consumer, it's an interesting dilemma where on one hand, we want games to be made by people. We don't want to see people replaced. But on the other hand, we do also want a really good product. So there's an interesting element there, right? In this situation, they would have never recorded this amount of lines. Interesting. It's going to be Terminator. So Elon robots are going to take over. You think so? I mean, ordinarily, what would happen in a voice situation like this? An actor would either come into the studio and record their lines, or they would send them. I think we saw that during COVID where they just sent them over as like a file. They would record them from their home. And so that's how they were doing it for years and years and years. And it only takes like 10 seconds and you can just make an AI version of your voice. It doesn't sound very good yet, but you can do it, I guess. And so, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty crazy. These companies are going to experiment as much as they can. They were going to inch forward because of the cost cutting measures and save themselves as much money as they possibly can, cut as many corners as they can. And if the product is a really good game, people will kind of forget about some of that stuff, right? People probably kind of forget about some of that stuff. I feel like this has to have happened in history, and we've kind of just like looked past it or something, right? This has to have happened in history in various other jobs that we're not even thinking about because it didn't affect us directly, so we just didn't think about it much. But I'm thinking in my mind, like when they put cars together in like a factory, they have like, big robotic arms moving these cars around. Like they must have previously put cars together by hand, right? But they all got replaced by these big robotic arms and stuff, lifts. There will always be a need for human input. Someone has to maintain the automated, and someone will need to replenish stock for the robot pickers. I mean, that's the thing until the robots start repairing robots, you know what I'm saying? If you have an autonomous robot that goes out and repairs the other robots, then we're really cooked, right? That's the level of like, shit, now what? I think a lot of people are very shocked to see this technology being used because we've just gotten used to things being so human for so long with a lot of this game development. But you're seeing more, even Bungie themselves, when developing Destiny 2, they had a whole article where they talked about how they use AI tools. So there's like this weird element, like you can't AI generate something because let's be real, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Entering a prompt and just spitting out something, that's pretty low effort. But you can use AI tools that enhance your work. So basically, like it's your hand doing the work, but it's AI making you significantly more efficient and helping you, right? So even Bungie has acknowledged AI tools in their developmental process. So that's kind of the first step towards inching their way to more AI, right? A good example even recently is Coca-Cola had like some crazy AI ad. Like all of a sudden Coca-Cola is like, I guess we're just going to make an AI ad, even though they have like billions of dollars, could easily film one normally. They just said, fuck it. We'll just do an AI generated ad. And they got a ton of pushback from that. So these big companies, they're experimenting in whatever way they can to cut costs. And at the end of the day, capitalism is going to, I mean, I can just see right now that capitalism is going to win, and I know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be a hard fought battle where we say, y'all need to stop using this AI trash, but they just keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? They just keep doing it. They're just going to keep doing it, and they're going to get away with it, unless one company or unless enough people stand up. But how they get away with it is what they do is they just test the waters a little bit at first. They just touch their little toe into the AI. They do stuff like this where they pay the voice actors, but they also use their voices with AI, right? Bungie uses tools to develop the game with human hands on a computer, but they also used AI enhancement tools, right? That's where you dabble, you just testing the waters, and then eventually, as people get more comfortable with AI's integration into voice actors, into art styles, and into game development, and into movies and into media, then eventually it will grow. It'll take another step further, and then another step further, and then another step further. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it's going to work for sure. It's just there's just no way because it's just too efficient, right? Paying someone a bunch of money to record their voice and give some really epic voice lines is awesome. And we've always appreciated really good voice acting in movies and in media. But the day that you could just AI generate it for free and not have to pay that person some thousands of dollars, that is a greedy capitalistic corporation's wet dream, That is their wet dream. Pirate Software replies to this saying, I disagree that this was done to undercut talent pay. Ooh. The text-to-speech system in-game is used for callouts of locations, items, and entities with context. This is tens of thousands of combinations. Example, Hornet at the waterworks up high, or battery here, battery on the shelf, battery in this closet. Hundreds of items with thousands of scenarios. Most studios wouldn't have these voiced. This studio did through with the text-to-speech system. It made work that otherwise would not have existed. Everyone just seems to be jumping to the most aggressively vicious option as their first choice. It doesn't make sense to do so here. Wow, that is a really interesting point. So basically, there's a million different items in the game, right? And a million different callouts of like up here, over there in the closet. And instead of having the voice actor record every single line and every single bit, they just create a profile of what their voice sounds like. And that way they can type in the chat, the text to speech chat, basically, and have them say whatever they need them to say, right? Very interesting. So this is a very different scenario that's being created where AI is not replacing people. AI is enhancing voice lines inside a video game, right? And so basically, AI is being used as a tool to make video games better, which is a much different perspective than AI being used to undercut pay for voice actors. Whichever side you sit on is it's a very interesting debate, right? This type of topic is fascinating. I think that ARC raiders, they're very aware of their public image, and they're definitely not trying to undercut or underpay people in this situation. I do think that other studios that maybe, I mean, I give you a good example. Coca-Cola randomly thinking they could get away with it, right? Is an interesting one. You know, Coca-Cola doesn't have necessarily a bad reputation as far as I know. I mean, I guess they did technically put cocaine in a drink, so maybe they didn't start off with the best reputation. But aside from that, you know, they don't come across to me as being like a controversial company. It still is. It's an interesting. We're at an interesting crossroads here. Can AI be used to enhance games? Obviously, the answer is yes. No one's going to really deny that. You even if you wanted to deny that, you can't because the game studios are just going to use them anyways. So AI is being used to enhance voice actors. There's different AI tools being used to develop the game in more efficient ways. Basically, we're using AI as like a way to still have human input, but just make things better and more efficient. And no one's really against that just yet. What we're against is the practice where we pay humans less and make things less human. This sounds an awful lot like undercutting voice actors. Well, the thing is, they did pay those voice actors, though, right? So they did pay them, you know? Like, here's the thing. Imagine you pull up to the studio and all you do is give your voice profile. They have you say, you know, A, E, I, O, U, the vowels, and they have you say a bunch of lines, you know, battery here and battery on the shelf. And they have you say, and they create an AI profile of you, and then they can make you say anything. They can make you say, you know, banana all of a sudden, even though you never said the word banana in the recording. They can make you say it because they have your voice recording, right? They have your profile created, and they paid you for that. And so now they're going to use your voice for all the different call outs in the game. Very interesting stuff. And I think it's interesting to see that right now, where we're at with AI, is we're at this stage where you can use AI tools to enhance gaming. And so basically, people have kind of figured out, okay, that's the start. Let's use these tools to enhance. But we're not really creating an exact line where this is where it starts and this is where it stops, right? The general, you know, definition is you can use AI to enhance your game developmental projects as long as it's human input, but you can't use AI to generate things, right? Thus far. But it's not like we get to, you know, audit these gaming companies. It's not like we get to have a recording, you know, a camera inside Embark Studios or a camera inside the C-suite of Bungie, right? And we get to audit them and see, hey, how much AI are you using today, Bungie? Let's see here, you know. Like they're not interested in that. So how far they choose to take it is up to them, and how much they choose to reveal is up to them. And like I said, they're at a weird crossroads where imagine you're getting paid money to make a product and you have to make this product incredible. And there's these tools and they're right there at your fingertips. And if you use them, it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? But if you get caught using them, you know, you could and then if you don't use them, then your product's not as good and then you get fired, you know? Like there's going to be some really weird stories we're going to hear about AI and game development over the next few years because it's just too tantalizing. It's too tempting. You just know that there's going to be people that really take advantage of this stuff.